If you're looking for a podcast that packs in sound property advice, as well as offering you an insight into making the world of property effective and ultimately work for you, you're in the right place. Hosted by Arsh, the original property rebel. He's written an Amazon bestseller, created the Property Investor app, the UK's first, and is an experienced property mentor. More importantly, he talks the talk and walks the walk.
Hi and welcome to another episode of The Property Rebel with your host Arsh Ilahi. And in this session we're going to be talking about some real optimism. For the first time in a long time, we've got some good news to share. We're going to be talking about coming out of lockdown. We're going to be talking about stamp duty and some of the extensions that have been provided, and more importantly, what this looks like for the UK economy. So before I say and do that, I want to say a quick hello to all new subscribers and listeners all around the world. I did a quick check on my stats. It shows that we're operating in almost the best part 25 different countries around the world. So I want to say thank you and also welcome to the Property Rebel. Now let's get straight into it. Let's face it, for the last couple of years, it's been tough. It's been tough not only from a personal point of view, but from a business point of view. Have we been in a lockdown? Have we come out of lockdown? Have we been able to trade? Have we not been able to trade? Has it affected us? Has it affected us from a personal point of view? Has it affected us from an emotional point of view? Has it affected us from a business point of view? It's been a really roller coaster of a couple of years. And I can say for the first time in a long time, it looks like we can see the light at the end of the tunnel. For anyone that watched Boris Johnson's announcement, and let's just call it, I can't remember the actual date, I think it's the 22nd of February 2021. He came out with a real optimism. He goes, guys, we need to get the country back up and running. And it was good. I don't think there's anyone that disagreed with anything that he said. The first thing that he said, now as a parent, the one thing that I was looking forward to, and I'm sure there's lots of parents listening to this, saying, please let the schools be open. Please let the schools be open. As I still been homeschooling, and I found a new admiration for teachers all across the country, because they deal with these kids when we're at work, and all I can say is fair play to you guys. If you're a teacher, you're listening to this, I take my hat off to you, because homeschooling was definitely a tough task, especially when I was trying to homeschool and also run a business and also try and remain optimistic for everything that was going on. So I'm so glad that from the 8th of March Boris Johnson said all schools were going to be open, and it was a phenomenal, almost like a sense of relief. Now moving on, he's done it in a steered, almost like a tiered approach, which I don't really mind, because as long as we can see the light at the end of the tunnel. Then he went on to say that from the 29th of March we can start getting some outdoor gatherings. From the 12th of April, non-essential retail was going to open. So the businesses that have I would consider had suffered the most have now been given a lifeline. 12th of April, that's the day. So we're looking at non-essential retail such as hairdressers, you've got gyms, and also pubs can start to open, and alcohol takeaways like beer gardens, zoos and theme parks, indoor leisure like swimming pools and gyms. Again, these guys have been shut for such a long time, and they haven't really had a massive amount of support from the government, unlike other industries like the property industry that has been able to remain open throughout the whole process. And again, if you're a service accommodation provider, you'll start to think about the 12th of April, because you'll think if you've got self-contained holiday accommodation, you're going to be allowed to open. And as well as that, so that's from a business point of view, but more importantly from a social point of view, is going to say that we're going to start to open up and the lockdown is going to start to ease. Now, the one big day that everyone is looking forward to, I don't know anyone that's not looking forward to this date, is the 21st of June 2021, where all legal limits on social contact have been removed and open to reopen the final closed sectors of the whole economy, which means that in essence this is our first real taste of what we would have considered normal life 2 years ago. So I'm really, really looking forward to what's going to happen on the 21st of June. I just really hope that we don't get to the 21st of June and with all the other easing measures that we've had in between, that we don't start to see spikes again with the introduction of kids going to school and other businesses started to open. I hope that we don't see a spike so that on the 21st of June, he then starts to put other measures back in. I know lots of friends that have got pubs, that have got nightclubs, who for the first time in years have said, you know what, I really can't wait for the 21st of June. I've got a friend that owns a nightclub in Birmingham and they have put on a spectacular event for the weekend of the 21st of June where they're going to go all out, and they've already sold 3,000 tickets within the space of almost like 48 hours of Boris Johnson saying we're going to open and the whole country is going to start to operate from the 21st of June. So that kind of gives you an indication of the optimism that's out there right now. And for the first time in a long time, we've actually got some good news. Now, let's relate all this back to property, because as with COVID, we've had some restrictions in the property industry. So first of all, a couple of weeks ago, Boris Johnson and also the housing minister also said that they extended where tenants could not be evicted. So they extended it for a further 3 months. So that was a bit of doom and gloom, because it means that almost for the best part of 9 months that tenants have not been able to be evicted. And there's been hundreds, if not thousands of cases where landlords are being owed money. And some of these guys have been racked up into tens of thousands of pounds. So I'm hoping that with the opening and the easing of lockdown, courts can start to open. As a result of courts start to open, we can start to get through some of the backlog. Now, naturally, some of the most severe cases are still being heard. But I've seen some cases where tenants have owed their landlords almost the best part £10,000 to £15,000, and they've still not been seen and they've still not been heard in court. So by the time we get to June, July, and then we start to deal with a backlog, you can imagine the level of debt level that's going to be raised against some of these landlords. And I really feel for these guys, because it's not the landlord's fault, and some tenants haven't been able to pay, or some tenants just won't pay. And it's been a really tough time for landlords in that respect. Now, let's get onto the pressing point of stamp duty. Now, as we all know, Chancellor Rishi Sunak came out and he's proposing that they extend the stamp duty for a further 3 months. It's not been announced yet, because by the time of this recording, he wouldn't have made the announcement, but these are all speculations, and he's intending to move the deadline from the 31st of March 2021 to the end of June 2021. And the reason why he's doing this is because it's been urged to push back the deadline, as many people have been left scrambling to find their transactions before the end date, which was the end of March. And I've done a bit of research, and according to the website Rightmove, approximately there's 100,000 transactions that were due to complete by the 31st of March. Now, what Rishi is really concerned about is that if they don't hit the deadline, that all these transactions, the whole 100,000 of them, a large majority of them will then fall to become abortive, because they won't have the necessary funds to complete the transaction. Just to give you an example here, if you're buying a property for £100,000 and you've already got your deposit lined up, and you've already saved, at the moment, if you're a homeowner, you won't require any stamp duty for any properties up to £500,000. If you're an investor, obviously you'd need the 3% surcharge, but let's just work on a homeowner here. So if you're buying a property for £100,000, there is no stamp duty. However, if you then come on the 1st of April and you've missed the 31st of March deadline, you're then going to have to find an additional, if you work on the basis of, I think it's 1% or 1.25%, you're then going to have to find an additional £1,000. If you haven't got that, what are you going to do? You've got two options. You can either go back and renegotiate with the vendor, but that's quite late at that stage. However, or alternatively, you say, I can't afford it, and you fall out of the transaction. I'm just using that as a random example, and I appreciate that I've said that properties of £100,000 require stamp duty. In actual fact, they don't, because there's a stamp duty threshold, I believe, of £150,000. But you get the gist. So there's going to be lots of people that may have initially had the funds to complete the transaction up until the 31st of March. Now, as a result of that, if they then fall into April, and it could be for a number of reasons, it could be that the surveyor's not been able to get out there, it could be that the mortgage lenders required further information, it could be that solicitors have required to do some additional inquiries between themselves. And let's face it, solicitors don't move quickly, not to mention that with COVID and them all working from home, it's actually brought the transaction time slower. So as a result of that, Rishi has said, well, what will happen is that we'll try and extend it for further 3 months, and we'll push it back until the end of June, and hopefully all these transactions are then going to be able to complete. Problem that you've got, and this will be, it's almost like kicking the can down the road. What happens to all the transactions that start in April, May, or May, or even the start of June? There's got to be a cut-off point somewhere, because otherwise he's always going to find himself in a position where there's going to be a situation where there are going to be transactions that become null and void. Because if you start the transaction in April or May, chances are that you're not going to get completed by the end of June. Are we going to have the same problem again? So where do we go with that? There has to be a policy or something in place which says that if you start the transaction no later than, let's say, the 1st of April or the 1st of May, then yes, you'll be live. Then yes, you will, regardless of how long the transaction takes. So let's just say that it starts in the 1st of May and your transaction ends up going into the 1st of July. Your stamp duty will still be exempt up to £500,000. So there's got to be something put in place. Otherwise, if he keeps it the same as all stamp duty is exempt up until the 31st of June or July, that's going to have a negative effect on the people that are trying to complete their transactions up until the end of June. It has, by reducing the stamp duty or alleviating the stamp duty for home buyers, it has actually helped the property market massively. So again, looking at some of the stats, Rightmove says that it reported that it took on average 49 days to sell a property as opposed to 67 days a year earlier, and it's shown that it's been a massive impact for the property market. My only concern is that when they do decide to bring in the stamp duty, is this the start of potentially, and I'm not going to say a crash, but the housing market to slow down? Because then this is an additional charge that they would not have been used to for the last 2 years. And we'll also talk about the furlough schemes, that there's talks of the furlough scheme being extended again. This is all great, and I've said this in multiple podcasts, that we are in a bubble, and we will always be in a bubble until the government actually turn off what I consider the money tap. The money tap is where they're pumping in all this money into the economy. At the moment, it just seems like a false economy, because the 80% or the 60% that the employees are being paid that are coming direct from the government, employers are not really feeling the pain yet. As soon as that money tap gets stopped, or as soon as the money tap is turned off and the employers are now having to pay for the employees, and if the business is not there, just to give you an example, hair salons, gyms, these businesses have not been open for how many months over the last few years? If we then have to bring in all these employees back in and there's no business there for them, what's going to happen to all these employees? Naturally, the business owner is going to say, sorry guys, can't afford to keep running at the levels that we were before. I'm going to have to start letting people go. So I am quite concerned about what will happen when the furlough schemes stop and when all the other incentives stop, because people have got used to this over the last few years. This has been what I would consider the key to survival for the majority of businesses. If we didn't have the grants, if we didn't have furlough scheme, would people have kept on all their employees? No, they would have been made employed or redundant many, almost like at the start of the first lockdown back in 2019. So unemployment is already at the highest that it's ever been. So there are some scary things to consider there. So it'll be interesting to see how the economy reacts when the furlough scheme is stopped. One of my personal suggestions is that you keep the furlough scheme running for the rest of the year, get the economy back up and running, let the businesses start to operate again and start trading a profit, and then naturally release the furlough scheme, as opposed to just say, sorry guys, you guys are open, the furlough scheme's stopping now. And if we can phase it out, and the same with the stamp duty, I think we'll be in a much better position. But from a property point of view, it will really be interesting to see what happens when stamp duty is reintroduced. More importantly, how they reintroduce the stamp duty. Is it going to be a phased approach? Is it, as we suggested, over a number of months? Give us a timeline. So if you start the transaction in this month, that means that you're still exempt. But however, if you do anything after, then you won't. Otherwise, if he keeps just giving us a deadline, the 31st of March, the 31st of June, we will see that it will just keep getting extended, because there are going to be lots of abortive cases, and people need to forecast and people need to budget accordingly. Estate agents have really enjoyed the fact that the stamp duty holiday has been there, because it really helped their industry sell multiple properties even in lockdown. So there we have it, guys. Short, sharp, just some thoughts and feedback as to what I've seen, and more importantly, how I'm seeing the economy right now. I think we're in a real important time of what I would now consider historic time, shall we say. And I think that the 12th of June, 12th or 21st of June is going to be a date that most people remember, the day that we come out of lockdown. I just hope it's not a date that we all get our hopes up to and then it gets pushed a little bit further down the line. So guys, if you've got any thoughts on that, please feel free to reach out to me. If there's a topic that you want me to cover, I'm always open to covering other topics. And if you've got something that you really want me to discuss, more than happy to do that. Email my assistant by emailing admin@arshelahi.com. More importantly, guys, if you like what I've said today and you want more free content, or you just want to connect with me in different ways, you can by, first of all, going to my YouTube channel, by searching for me under Arsh Elahi on YouTube. I've got hundreds of videos. I also release a new video every Thursday at 4 p.m. So please feel free to go over there, like, subscribe and share the channel with other like-minded people. As well as that, you can connect with me on social media. You can find me on Facebook, LinkedIn, Instagram and Twitter and Clubhouse. And then finally, I always say this at the end of every podcast: have you downloaded the Property Investor app? It's the UK's first property investment platform, which showcases all kinds of deals all over the country. So this includes below market value deals, rent to rent deals, lease option deals, service accommodation deals, just to name a few. So we've got over 200 properties online, and it takes you approximately 2 minutes to register. You can go to our website, which is propertyinvestorapp.co.uk, or you can go to a smartphone. If you've got a smartphone, go to the App Store and type in Property Investor. It takes 2 minutes to register, and it's completely free. And as a result of that, you'll get all the deals in the palm of your hand. On that note, guys, I wish you all to be safe, well and happy. If you've got a business that is about to start opening, I really hope it really goes well for you. And more importantly, let's hope that this is the start of what I would consider the build to normality, shall we say. And I look forward to speaking to you all very soon. Thank you and bye-bye.
The large majority of people make a positive change if they take immediate action. So act now. Download the Property Investor app and join Arsh on his social media channels to excel your property journey.